Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to question and answer session. This one, number 10. If you end up liking this in the end, there obviously are 9 others that you can check out that I've done over the past since starting the channel. But I hadn't done one in quite a while. I think almost a year it's been since I've done one of these. So I thought this would be a lot of fun, you guys. I put that out there to you in a previous video and let you submit questions. So in all, I collected together 25 questions from 35 people because some people doubled up on asking questions. I've got it broken down into music related. There are 18. There are 2 about my channel and 5 that are personal. So I'm going to cover all of that. Just to catch people up in case you are relatively new to my channel, I am a licensed registered architect, hence wearing the shirt. I generally wear this shirt whenever I do these question and answer sessions. It's sort of just tongue-in-cheek because I'm such a music fan, but I'm an architect by day. Just kind of shows the dichotomy of who I am or my personality. As I said, big music fan, of course. I've been collecting for 34 years, since 1989. I have over 12,000 CDs in the collection, over 350 box sets, CD edition box sets, and I've recently started regrowing my LP or record collection itself, and I'm now over 300 on that. I used to have a lot more, but as I was replacing them on CD, I've always gotten rid of the records, as long as they weren't rare ones. But now I'm trying to grow that more. I've been having a lot of fun doing that. So that number will keep going up, just the same as for CDs and whatnot. Okay, and as always, I'm going to try to do my best pronouncing everyone's name here that asked these questions. If I get it wrong, I'm going to apologize up front and say I'm sorry now. So we'll kick off with music related. As I said, there are 18 of these. Mark Cusack asked the first one here: is your listening or appeal of an album influenced by music reviews? And I'd say yes and no. Definitely, I don't let bad reviews prevent me from buying albums, but if I'm reading a review, and I don't generally read the reviews until after the album has come out because I don't want it to jade my opinion, but if I read the review and people are really excited in it, it'll generally heighten my excitement as well. Probably kind of akin to the way that you guys watch a music review of a new album from me. Maybe that excites you and you go out and buy it. Okay, Mikhail Bowden asks, does sound quality matter in your choice of physical media? Yes, and personally, I still feel that a CD sounds better than records. I know there's plenty of people that feel the other way about it, and certainly if we go back in time, records sounded better in the 70s and early 80s when CDs were first coming out. But in my opinion, CDs have overtaken the sound quality of records, and certainly when we're talking about used product, where an older record will have hiss and skips and pops and things of that nature that you're combating, and CDs don't. Just a personal preference, but in my opinion, I am going with the highest sound quality in terms of what I am choosing to purchase. Okay, for the next question, I'm always getting asked about my sound system, and we're sitting here in front of it. So Tomar 8272 and Gizzy 2403 both asked the question, what kind of sound system do you have? It is a Denon RCD M41. It's a shelf system, as you guys can see. I don't have the component system. I mean, I do have the record player, which is separate. I've never been a big fan of the component systems. There's not any particular reason, but I don't like very loud music. And I know that sort of runs completely contrary to people who are music fans and that sort of stuff, but I've never listened to my music loud. And I just find the component systems that are capable of doing that, meaning they don't really sound good unless you get them up to that level, don't really work for me. So I've gone with Denon, which is a very high-end shelf system that for me at the low volume gives excellent quality sound. And as a follow-up question to that, Ben E asks if I see myself ever upgrading my audio set, and it's sort of based on just what I explained about why I have this shelf system. I don't really see it happening. It's not to say it won't happen. It's very hard to find shelf systems, so I may have to upgrade to some type of a component system with the individual receiver, CD player, record player, and so forth. And I would like to have it all together under one set of speakers and that kind of stuff. But I'm going to have to find one that works for me in terms of the sound and the volume wise and so forth. But I've been to a number of the high-end audio places and I've done the demos in the rooms, and for whatever reason, I don't think they sound good. For my ears alone, they do not. That's not to say that they don't sound good to other people, but usually the highs are too high in those, or the lows are too lows, meaning it's too much bass, it's too much high-end treble on it. But this, again, it's just how we all hear things. So for me, at least, the Denon is the way that I like to go, and I have been for maybe the last 5 or 6 years or so, and been very happy with it. Okay, next question comes from Mr. JD&J. Have you ever thought about ripping all of your music so that you can make playlists? No, not specifically, because I have a streaming service. I subscribe to Apple Music, so I have it all digitally that way. I do occasionally make playlists in there, but I'm not so worried about having everything that I've got here done digitally. That's why I have the physical format. I can listen to it here, and when I'm on the go, I've got streaming service that allows me to listen to albums right when they drop and just kind of whatever comes to mind, and I don't have to worry about the process of ripping and that sort of thing. Treff asks the question, are you worried at all about how long CDs will last? And so originally when the CD came out, it was anticipated that they would last for 50 years. First CD was pressed in 1982. I've got some CDs that go back to 1983, making them 40 years old at this point. Now, theoretically, I'd have 10 years left on those, but there's no signs of anything happening with that CD in terms of its playability, breaking down, just anything like that on it. I tend to think they're going to last a lot longer than 50 years. I've also read some things that say that that was really having more to do with CDs that were rewritable and stuff like that, as opposed to the ones that are factory pressed. So hopefully they're going to go a lot longer than that. I think if there was any problem, that would have already started on it. I don't think they're going to turn 50 and then just disintegrate. So it may really come down to just how well they're kept. And if you keep your CDs in a conditioned home to where you don't have high humidity contents and things of that nature, then you're not going to have things like CD rot and stuff like that that can make the CDs break down and stop working. Okay, Mark S. 6908 asks, do you think a CD revival is likely like the vinyl revival? And yes, I do. And actually, I've already seen that going in that sort of way. Many stores have started pricing CDs towards the collector side of things. And lots of vinyl stores have started stocking CDs as well, where they were only vinyl and they've seen the boom in CDs, and so they've actually added small sections of CDs, which I think will only grow in time. And just the same way that vinyl became a nostalgic thing, I think that CDs will do the same. I've already seen that happening with cassettes. I am blown away by how much stores have cassettes and are selling cassettes, and that is a business for them. So I think it is just a matter of time before the young kids see CDs in that same sort of nostalgic way, and we get a boom there. The unfortunate side is that if they keep going up in price to that collector's market side of things, like vinyl has done, which has gone through the roof, CD prices could do the same. So it might be a double-edged sword. Okay, multiple people have asked about whether I'm a fan of a particular band or type of music, so I'm simply going to run through the list of artists here and say whether I am or I'm not. So somebody asked about Heart. Yes, I'm absolutely a fan of Heart. I probably prefer their 80s era more than the 70s, although I do like all eras of the band. I am a fan of Rush. I do like Steel Heart. I do like Giant in the band Dare, who has Darren Wharton in the group from Thin Lizzy. Steel Panther, I am not a fan of. I don't really like parody music at all. Very limited on what I do and don't like about it, but I've never been into that band. Killer Dwarfs, not a fan of. New Zealand bands in particular, I don't have one specifically that I know of, although in my 12,000 CD collection there might be one band from there. Soundtracks, I do like some, but generally only soundtracks that have all of one genre type of music on it. I don't really like when it has rock and soul and funk and rap and other things on it. So sometimes there are some really good soundtracks out there. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or Bogus Journey or one of those two. Those were good soundtracks. Last Action Hero, things like that. Airborne, yes, I am a fan of them. I actually have seen them live. Slade, I do like them as well. Got into them through Quiet Riot, having covered a number of their songs. Went back to the originators of it and found out that they basically sounded like Quiet Riot or vice versa. So that was a cool thing. And T-Rex, yes, I'm a big fan of T-Rex. I've got a lot of his stuff, including a number of box sets and things as well. Okay, Shane Dalton asks, what album do you have the most copies of? And I realize that is another question I get asked a lot. So if I ever do another one of the 10 most asked questions that I get, something along those lines, I will add this question and a few of these other ones in here because it was kind of crazy about the number of people that would ask similar type questions. So previously I had listed Def Leppard's Hysteria. I now have 6 copies of that. I have a cassette, the original Jewel Case CD edition, a remastered Jewel Case CD, 20th anniversary edition, 2 CDs, deluxe edition box set, and then in the CD collection volume 1, it's also packaged in there. Since that time, I kind of realized that I have other ones that are like that. Great White Hooked. You can see 2 of them right there behind me, the one hanging on the wall. So I have the original Jewel Case edition with the censored album cover, a deluxe edition reissue of it that's 2 CDs and has the uncensored album cover, the LP with the uncensored art, which you see behind me there, and then that promotional box that's right below it, which has another CD and cassette in it. So 5 versions of it there. And then Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon. Not really surprised once I thought about it, but I hadn't considered it in the past. I have 6 copies of that. Jewel Case edition, a remastered in a cardboard sleeve, 20th anniversary box set, the Immersion box set, and I have 2 copies on LP. Okay, then I've got 3 people asking this question here. Johann Casper Baumgartner, and then Michael SK87 and Joe Rock 7381. All asked the question are very similar. Is there any music in your collection that you don't like, and if so, why do you keep it? Well, yes, I have a couple things that came to mind, but I am a completist. So I will say this, the stuff that is out on the walls, the stuff that I have in general, I like it all. I didn't buy a collection and then just stick it in. I didn't take free CDs from somebody with stuff I didn't like. I didn't just buy something and try it and then say I don't like it and keep it. I often go around, if you haven't noticed, wearing my headphones. I look stuff up online. I listen to it before I buy it. So even bands that I know nothing about, if the album cover strikes me, I check it out first so I know what I'm getting and I know if I want to have it in the collection. I'm really particular. So if I actually really hate something, I don't want to have it in the collection. Now, that being said, being a completist and really loving bands like LA Guns and Lynch Mob, both of those bands made albums that are real stinkers. And LA Guns, the album American Hardcore, not a fan of. Now I'll say this, back in, I don't know, 97 or so when that album came out, because it was LA Guns, the times were different. I got into it. I really did try to enjoy that album. And for what it was, I enjoyed it at the time. But I was very glad when they dropped all of that and came back to their normal sound. And Lynch Mob, the album, smoked this simply because there was a new Lynch Mob album and same sort of thing. I did listen to it a lot, and I have to say, for what it was, I enjoyed it. I'm very glad that Lynch Mob did not stick with that. Now, both of those do not sit in the collections of the band. They're down in a box somewhere. but I'm not going to get rid of them because I just want to have them for the purposes of completing a full collection by those bands. Okay, later May asked, what is your favorite live concert that you've seen? I also get asked that a lot. Nothing will ever compete or surpass, I guess, the first two concerts I saw. I saw AC/DC with King's X opening in 1991. That was my first concert, and it just kind of blew my mind. I mean, I've never seen so much energy in my life. Concerts these days don't come anywhere close to the level of intensity that kind of a show was, when all the fans that are there are to see and hear the band. They're not talking. This isn't just an event that corporations buy group of tickets and send their employees to. Completely different type of time back then. Poison 1991 was Slaughter opening, same sort of thing. I saw both those within a couple months of each other. But favorite shows as a whole, ones that come to mind, I couldn't really settle on just one because I've had some really amazing ones. I've seen hundreds of shows, probably near 300 at this point. Ratt in 2013, a reunion show. They blew my mind with the level of intensity. Juan Krauser came back to the group. Carlos Cavazo was in on lead guitar, and it was just an amazing performance. It was a small, not even a theater, I would say, maybe 1,000 people total. It was very close to the stage for that one, and a lot of these I was either front row or very close to. The Misfits in 2015, I was front row, and that show blew my mind. Tom Kiefer of Cinderella, also in 2015, front row for that. That guy acted as though he was an 18-year-old rocker trying to prove himself to get a record deal. He was just so into it, along with his band. Scorpions in 2017. The band was past their 50th anniversary at that point, starting in were they near it? Yeah, they go back, I think, to like 64 or something. Their first album, I think, was 72. But they had already done their 50th anniversary tour. I just couldn't believe the intensity from these guys at the age that they were. And another band like that, Deep Purple, 2019, right before the pandemic, front row for that. And again, you would think that a band like that was doing a farewell tour at the time, and I think they were also celebrating their 50th anniversary, said, I just couldn't believe the intensity of those shows. So those really stand out in my mind. In fact, the Deep Purple show was when I first posted some content as a YouTube channel, and that's actually what kicked everything off. Okay, Chris asked, do you go to many live shows? I've tried to group these related questions back to back in here if you haven't noticed. As I said, I've seen upwards of near 300 shows. Prior to the pandemic, I went regularly, but due to the high cost of shows these days, I just haven't felt the desire to go see anyone. But probably also has to do with the fact that I've been seeing shows for over 30 years. I've seen almost every artist I want to see in some capacity. Like, I would like to see David Gilmour solo, but I have seen Pink Floyd back in 1994 with David Gilmour. I have seen Roger Waters solo. So I've covered territory of favorite bands and things like that. There's very few artists I haven't seen, the Rolling Stones being one of them. But at this point, I kind of don't know if I want to go see them. I'm not sure what I would see on stage and whether it would take away from my love of the band or not, with those guys being 80 years old. So there's that sort of stuff that I struggle with in here. But since the pandemic, I actually have not been back to any shows just yet. I actually take that back. I think I have gone and seen one show. I think I went and saw Little Feat, and I've actually got a concert lined up in October for the same band, but nothing specific. Okay, then I've got 4 people here asking this next question. Pop Pop 2, Big Dave, Kenny Brooks, and Long Live Metal all ask the question, how do you keep track of everything you own so you don't buy duplicates? Generally speaking, I keep it all in my head, and that's not to say that I haven't bought duplicates over the 34 years that I've been collecting, but it's really been few, less than 10 for sure. And in most cases, it's because it has been an alternate album cover, or when I was in college, I thought that that album was not with me, meaning it might have been back in Florida with my mom. And so I bought the album to have it, and I was enjoying it, and then I go to file it on the wall, and it turns out I did have the album. So it's usually something like that, not something to where I buy it and I literally think I do not own it, never have owned it, and then it turns out that I've had it. So and I don't know why that is. A lot of people ask about that, whether I'll create a list or do anything, and 12,000 CDs is a lot to scan into Discogs. I scanned in maybe 100, 150, and it just took so much time and energy that I'm not really interested in doing the whole thing. But that's also because I do know what I have in my head. I live and breathe my music all the time. I'm always going through the collection. So I do know what I have and what is in it. But again, it is just done with memory. Okay, Brunzi. Apologize if I'm saying that one wrong. What is your most rare or valuable CD? The only one that comes to mind, I might have some others in here that are worth a lot, but I have Duff McKagan's Beautiful Disease, an album that was due to be released in 1999. It's his unreleased second solo album that goes for over $1,000 typically, either through Discogs or on eBay when it comes up. It's a promotional only album with a white label pressed by Geffen Records, who then shelved the album and it's never come out. Now, partly for value of that, beyond the dollar amount, that is one of my most valuable because I am such a big Guns N' Roses fan. I also have the unreleased second solo album from Robin Zander of Cheap Trick. Now that one does not go for $1,000 online, and you can probably pick a copy of that up for 40, 50 bucks kind of a thing. But I do have a promo copy of that from Big 3 Records, the label that was going to release that album, which was a country album. I think it was called Countryside Boulevard. And that is one of my most prized possessions because it's an unreleased album from the lead singer of Cheap Trick. Anthony Genovese asked the question, what do you think of satellite radio? I love it, except not enough to actually have it. I do like it because there's, and I'm going to say very little commercials, although I know people are going to argue and say there's no commercials, but there's so much talking on that thing between it. Well, let me say that's with ones that I've listened to. Satellite radio has certain ones. There's like Tom Petty channel, Tom Petty radio, whatever they call it. And I like that a lot, but then you get people on there talking and stuff that for me just feels like commercials on it. And so I don't particularly care for that. I know there are other channels that just play the music, but as a whole, I like to pull out an album and listen to an album. If I get into a particular song, I want to hear music that is related to that. I'm not looking for a greatest hits or something of that nature. So it's a cool thing. I drive with people that have satellite radio, and I love it when I'm listening to it with them. But as I said, it's just not something that I've ever thought about or desired to get. Stephanie Vellante asks, do you think your passion for music is a kind of love? Yeah, absolutely. And I know that it is something that I just absolutely enjoy. It brings me so much happiness. And if that's not love, I don't know what is. It is a pure thing that just no matter when it happens or how it happens, it's always a good, happy experience, and I get so much joy out of it. So yeah, I wouldn't want to be giving any of that sort of a thing up, and it's just something I'm going to continue to do regardless. I mean, I've had plenty of people in my life that have been supportive and plenty that have not been supportive, but regardless, music has always been there for me. Okay, that actually wraps up the music portion of questions, and I've got two channel-related ones here. Beat Up Record CDs asks, do you research before each video or do you just have a wealth of knowledge? Actually, both, I would say, and I'm not sort of trying to toot my own horn. I do know a lot because I live and breathe this, and I look things up. When I get a brand new album, I like to read about it online. I go to Wikipedia a lot. I follow music news stuff, the things that I edit and put together in my weekly music news roundup for you guys. I'm reading all of that stuff online. So I've got a lot of stuff that's up in my head. That said, I do research before I do a lot of the videos. I have notes just like I do today. In fact, I have my computer down here with all of your information in it and the questions so that I can stay on topic. And a lot of times when I'm doing reviews, I have my notes in front of me to do that as well. There's plenty of other times that you guys have seen where I have nothing in front of me. It's just straight talking to the camera, and so I'm pulling stuff out that way. When I'm talking with Anthony and we're doing shows together or collaborations with people, that's just straight off the cuff. That's why I'm saying I do have a wealth of knowledge to be able to do that, but I also like to be very prepared. I am an architect after all, so we're very organized people who like to be prepared for what comes next. And Mark Cusack 6335 asked the question, how many videos have you filmed on your channel? Over 1,400 in just under 4 years. So this October will actually be my 4-year anniversary, October 13th, if anyone's counting. So yeah, 1,400 videos. Don't know exactly where because YouTube doesn't give me the full exact number. They just count in hundreds. So I'm at 1,400. I could be almost at 15. I don't know. But that kind of surprised me because I've not been keeping track. Once I passed 1,000, I stopped paying attention to the number. Okay, moving on. 5 personal questions here to wrap things up. Chad Santos and Jason Blinger asked, how did you become interested in being an architect? I forgot that question was in here actually. Well, I loved to draw as a kid. That was sort of the first thing. And then I got into high school. And I think there might have been an art class that I took, and of course I enjoyed that, but it was a 1-semester thing. But I saw that there was drafting, and I knew that drafting had to do with drawing. Drafting is the thing that people do for architecture to draw a building. So I took 4 years of that, and I really enjoyed it. But that wasn't what made me want to become an architect. In fact, I sort of fell into it by accident because after I had graduated high school, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I was playing in bands, I was wanting to be a rock and roller, that sort of thing, but I was being realistic and I knew that I needed something to fall back on. And so I flipped through the course guide and I just wasn't interested in certain things. I didn't want to do things dealing with a lot of math like being an accountant or dealing with business. I didn't really want to write for a living. So I didn't want to do something in, say, journalism or literature or things of that nature. And I just thought about, I don't really want to sit behind a desk all day. And so I kind of thumbed through the catalog and I thought about having taken 4 years of drafting. And there wasn't a course for drafting, but there was for architecture. And I said, well, I think architecture is like drafting, so let me sign up for that. A little did I know that drafting was only a small piece of architecture and it was such a bigger thing. So through taking courses early on in college, I found that architecture was the right fit for me. But I didn't actually know that for the first couple of years that I was doing it. It was sort of later on that I realized it was really the right profession for me. And of course I stuck with it, graduated, eventually came to New York for my master's degree, and then graduated from there and decided to stick around New York. And now here I am in New Jersey. So there you go, bringing it all the way up to present day. Richard Woodhouse asks, do you have any interests outside of music? And I actually have a lot of interests. I love art and history both. History is part of why I actually like music because there, of course, is that side to it within music. Art also plays into album covers and all that sort of stuff. But I do like going to museums. When I was in New York City, I would go to the Met and MoMA. And different museums like that all the time. I really do enjoy that sort of thing. I'm a big fan of things related to space, so I follow companies like SpaceX, NASA, the launches, all of that sort of stuff. I'm super excited about going, returning to the moon and eventually making our way to Mars. As I mentioned, I like to draw, but I also like to paint. So I actually can't see any of it out here, but in my bedroom, throughout my house, I do have paintings and drawings and things that I did myself. So I do that. And of course, I run a YouTube channel, so that in and of itself is another passion and interest and thing that I've enjoyed doing as well. I consider that to really be a separate hobby from the music, because I could just sit around listening to music, but making these videos, formulating this stuff, putting it out for you guys is a whole separate thing in and of itself. I used to do a lot with photography, which I also really enjoy, but I kind of moved that passion and what I was doing and time I was spending there into making this channel for you guys. Next one up, John P, The Mind's Eye CMH, and Gemma Watson Art 9029 asks, growing up, were you in any bands? I think I might have mentioned this a little earlier. Yes, one, I play guitar, did playing guitar growing up. And I did play for a few different ones. I mean, I was always joining this group or that group, and then, you know, nothing really ever got off the ground with most of these. But there was a couple of them that we would rehearse, you know, play in garages, that sort of stuff. I never played out live with any of these, though. One group was Chapter 13. We were a punk group. This was really kind of before the pop punk thing, but it was right in and around that time of 92 to 94, the breakout of Green Day, Offspring, all that sort of stuff. I had a metal band called Riot Act, and then another one called Anorexic Skeletons. And we did 4-track demo recordings, my friend and I, who were the primary people within that group. And we would have different drummers sit in. My friend was the bass player and singer. I played the guitar. We did have a couple drummers sit in with us at different times, but nothing really ever clicked. And eventually, my friend joined a band called Crossbreed that did get signed to Artemis Records, came to New York, recorded here. It was wonderful having him here doing that. I got to be in the studio with him. He went out on tour with bands like Static X and Rammstein, and, you know, had some success doing that. So he got to go do that, but I took the side road, becoming the architect. Interestingly, I graduated from Columbia University with my master's degree the same time, same year and everything that he had his album come out from Artemis Records and went on tour. So we both had our dreams come true. It was such a cool time for my childhood friend to be in New York City with me, both of us doing that. Just an absolute wonderful thing that I'll never forget. And then John P. and Gary Matthews have asked about whether or not I can show my tattoos. And I don't really know how much you guys can see with me doing this on the tattoos. You know, I have this mermaid lady on the arm here. I've got this woman crying. I've got a bumblebee here, the tribal tattoo. I've got this woman swinging here inside this obeus strip that looks like the letter 8. It means symbol of infinity, comes from architecture. I've got these patches on the arm that are peeling open with this bird swinging out, and this is a night scene. This is a daytime water scene, so night and sky, daytime water. A little maybe hard to see when you put them together. There are elements in them that mirror each other. I would like to put together a whole video to show those tattoos as well as other ones that I've got. I've got a cassette on my leg. I've got some other ones in different places on my back, and I've got my shoulders done and stuff like that. Oh, I don't think I showed it. Where is it? There. I've got the Paul Stanley rose because I'm such a big Kiss fan, but I refuse to write the names of bands on me. So I got his rose so that I know what that is, and that is my connection there to Kiss. But yeah, so I'd like to do a video that showed all of them, and if I can kind of figure out a way to do it that would be cool for, you know, a wide audience of people to see, I will certainly put together a video for that at a later date. All right, last question on here came kind of right at the tail end here, and I mean, not in just the show, but when it came in, so I added it here. And it was a very personal question. And I initially kind of debated about whether I'd answer it or not, but I get this sort of question a lot, and it always ties into things where people say things like, if you've got 12,000 CDs, You must not be married. You must not have any kids. They sort of always hint at the fact that I'm alone or whatever, that kind of stuff. So Quo Lizzie 1554, his name is Dave, and Dave and I have butted heads here and there. And so, and I did say this when I responded to him, that I wanted to thank him because he went into a lot of detail and he took a lot of time to explain what he was asking and why he was asking it. And so I very much appreciated it. And because he asked this with so much detail, I'm going to answer this. He asked if I have given up on love. And wouldn't you like to have someone to share your music with? And absolutely, of course I would. I definitely haven't given up on love. I have dated a few girlfriends during the course of these 4 years that I have been filming this. I don't put them in the videos. I don't reference them very often, if at all. But I have had girlfriends. And I was engaged 6 years ago, so I did go as far as that. She broke it off. Very unfortunate thing. It was a crushing experience that I had to go through. I'm well over it at this point, but I still hope to find the right person. I am a firm believer in not settling. I have had a couple girlfriends in the past propose to me, and I didn't feel it was right, so I did not accept. When I felt it was right, I did propose, but when she called it off, while I did pursue to try to repair that relationship and move it forward for a solid month, it just wasn't happening, so I let it go. I don't want to force anything. It needs to be right, and I need to feel that it's right, because I have no intention of just getting married to get married and then getting divorced in 5 or 10 years or something along those lines. I do feel my life is very fulfilled. So while I don't have a wife at this point, I'm actually not dating anyone at this point, and I don't have any kids. I don't feel that it is lacking in any way, but that is not to say that I'm not always looking or that I have closed down. So yes, I do intend to keep my eyes, ears, everything open to the possibility of love, and I will find that. But until then, music is going to be my love and my passion. And it's like I said before, it's always there for you. No matter what's going on in your life, no matter how bad, how crappy things get, music is always there. And that's what we're all here for, music. So hopefully you enjoyed that 25 questions there, 35 different people weighing in to ask things. And there was a bunch of other people that did ask questions. I either tried to respond to you directly to answer it if it wasn't something I was putting in here. There are other ones that came in late, where I'd already put this together. There's probably other ones that have come in since that time where now you're watching this and wondering why it isn't in here, but I already filmed the video and so forth. So if it didn't make it in here, I apologize to you. I will try to answer them through the comments section, and I will try to do more of these. Let me know if you guys really enjoyed this question and answer session. You want this to happen again, let me know. I will try to make this a more regular thing. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.